Welcome to another episode of The Propaganda Show, as posted on notpartofyourscene.com. You can find articles and other podcasts, including posts to The Propaganda Show on Twitter. If you go find us at NPOYS_music, or you can also find me directly at Chris Sarda. Of course, we have another longer-running sports podcast called Chaotic Sports. You can find us at Chaotic Sports on Twitter and chaoticsports.com. Normally Angelo is with me for these, but we haven't done one in a while, mostly because I'm still getting the feel of how I want the propaganda show to be, or if we're going to separate stuff and do things in a more divided nature, like the reaction video or the some of the album reviews. The last thing I posted is the first listen album reviews for Hooded Menace and forgot the other band. But so, you know, and I did that in the car. I listened to them and I put out something quick. I think we're just going to keep churning out stuff, which we haven't done quite yet which we haven't been very good about, just until we start finding a real feel on whether we want to divide shows or not. So that's what this is, basically. I'm just going to go over some stuff that's happening in, the corner of music that I'm listening to, and a lot of stuff that's happening film-wise. As I'm recording this, we're about to leave to go watch Black Panther. My wife is very excited about it, and of course the reviews have been great, and we like pretty much every Marvel movie. And at least I am very much a completist. I'm even going to go watch Inhumans in the next couple weeks. So, I'm going to watch everything. They basically have my time and attention. But Black Panther's getting especially good nods. I'm very interested. So this is going to be sort of a preview, because I'll try to do a review. We'll write up a review and do a podcast about it too. But I'm interested in it. I was starting to feel like, even though I'm a fan and it's a big blockbuster movie and it's naturally going to get a lot of people coming out, that you can only do so much with the superhero genre now, especially when they're all tied closely together, and everything's basically building towards the Infinity War and the movie after Avengers, which is no longer Infinity War Part 2. So I am very surprised at the reaction it's getting, that some people are still calling it their favorite, and that it's also on a big scale, right? Because if you think about Ant-Man, right, people were pleasantly surprised. It seemed like a weird character to give a full movie to, but people were pleasantly surprised. And then as movies started coming out, even though the new Thor movie was great, it started to... you started to see a formula to some of the movies, and they really doubled down on the comedy side and stuff. And so I expected something similar from Black Panther, not necessarily as funny as Thor tried to be, but something similar as far as, okay, we've seen that, we've been there, we've done that. And I know we're going to have been there and seen that to some extent. There's a superhero, powers, a villain, with Black Panther, there's clearly some family issues, family versus family kind of thing. The underlying plot of Black Panther, is to make it personal, which you have to do in a lot of these solo movies. So this makes me want to see it more. The great reviews that it has, and it's pretty much impossible for me not to like a Marvel movie, I think. And I don't want to just say that, you shouldn't listen to me because of that, because they could put out something terrible, but they really sort of figured it out, to just always put out something worth watching at least. But to put out something that goes beyond my expectations is a different story. And that's why we're very excited to see Black Panther, and likely you'll see an entire podcast about the movie, hopefully with Angelo. He's probably watching it pretty soon also. So there we are there. So basically, like I said, this episode of the Propaganda Show, just going to go over some music and some stuff that's happening on notpartofyourscene.com. So to start, I figured I'd just go on about some of my recent purchases. Now I've gone a little off the deep end as far as music has gone this month. One of the things I bought this month is I pre-ordered an early Ghostbath album called Funeral. And Ghostbath, you could probably do a whole podcast on Ghostbath, on the reaction people have to the band. In the world of black metal, there's a little bit of a divide, especially with the new kinds of bands coming out that are heavily influenced by black metal, but people are hesitant to call it black metal, even though it sounds like black metal. It's something about the, I guess being from a frozen Nordic country. So Ghostbath sort of got lumped into there along with bands like Death Heaven and Alcé from France and a couple other ones that you can sort of call atmospheric, or you can call it new wave black metal. I don't know what you call it. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is that they put out good music, and I think Ghostbath has succeeded in this over the past couple albums, with Moonlover especially. So now they've released something that their album Funeral, that they had written, I think it's just the singer at the time, but that they had written before getting popular. One of the things that people have against them is for a while they convinced everyone they were from China, and I haven't been able to put my finger on whether that was on purpose or not. You hear different things, and people are on the internet especially, they're most ready to hang someone rather than really look into it or care. To me, it's sort of a funny prank almost, that you can convince people that you're from China, that's how you can get people to listen to your music a little bit, and then the music ends up turning out pretty well. There's another band called Seeds of Iblis. I'll put a link in the show notes. But for a while, and I think people still believe it, they tricked everyone that they were a black metal band from Iraq, which I doubt is the case. I question it. There are articles out there questioning it. And it's, typical black metal fare, anti-religious. Mostly black metal goes, more anti-Christian, but this band went more anti-Muslim in a country where you wouldn't expect that to happen at this point. So it looks like it's a little bit of a farce, but hey, to me it's a cool thing to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with the whole thing of black metal and that tremolo picking and screaming and being completely anti-pop and, the absolute reverse of positive. Maybe that's why I like the music, because I don't wear any of that shit, or I don't dress up like that. But, maybe that absurdity is what draws me to it, and I think that's what draws me to a lot of metal and experimental music. So Ghostbath is pressing and re-releasing their, I believe it's their first full length. I think they had other smaller releases before that, and it's called Funeral. And I jumped on it. I don't want to say I'm a sucker for colored vinyl and splattered vinyl. I have so much now. It starts to look the same. I guess it's a way, for the record to set itself apart when it's on my deck. But so that's a recent purchase. Real excited about that. The truth is I've only listened through that album once, and I haven't even given, to be honest, Star Mourner that many listens, because you pick it up on vinyl. This is the story of someone who buys physical music, and I'm gonna just tell you right now that I'm a little bit. It's almost hypocritical and silly, like probably even a waste of money. But if you're into music, you can get caught up in wanting to buy these physical releases. But when I buy a physical release, I listen to it far less than when I listen to things on Google Music or Spotify. I'm on Google Music currently, but I listen to it far less, so it's a little bit strange because I really like Star Mourner, but Moonlover has, probably 30 more listens than Star Mourner does. So there's no real good reason why I don't just, stream it too, like when I'm at work and working or something. So Funeral by Ghostbath is a recent purchase. Should be real good. It's going to go in with my collection of Ghostbath vinyl, which on their part, I should say, they do give you a reason to buy it. So if you like the music you want and you're going to buy something physical, you don't want it just to be the media, whether it's a CD or cassette or vinyl in its sleeve or in its case or something, right? So I got to give Ghostbath a lot of credit for making something real pretty, to go with the media in question, and that's important to me. I think that's one of the things I miss about when we bought more physical media, is that the packaging actually influenced the way you listen to the music. If the packaging was all white, or if the artwork was extreme or crazy, or if they went for like a lot of deathcore bands go for a different art style. To me, if they would just go for the typical death metal, medical or gross out pictures, we wouldn't even have a deathcore, because a lot of those bands like Acacia Strain and Black Dahlia Murder really just sound like death metal bands, and they just don't sing about the same lyrics, and they don't have the same art direction. So Funeral's there, real solid. I expect a real beautiful release by the band. They're doing it and pressing it themselves, so hopefully they take a little more pride in that. It did come out to be more expensive than I would like, but they only printed so many copies. Hopefully hopefully the packaging's real nice, and hopefully, still most important overall is hopefully the sounds great on the vinyl. Other thing I bought recently is Death Bomb Arc, who is I don't know what to call him, experimental, hip-hop, noise, weird record label out of LA that has a lot to do with introducing clipping to the world, and a few other crazy acts. One of the best names in underground music, Lana Del Rey's, is on there. So I like to support Death Bomb Arc whenever I can. They are even though I don't always like the noise and super experimental stuff, but I do, but you like to support a bunch of different stuff, because, people on Bandcamp are also have a lot of interesting stuff that's not necessarily on a label. But Death Bomb Arc is releasing a sort of a 20th anniversary subscription special. I don't even know what they're giving. It ended up being $45 for at least 5 releases, so that's $9 each. I want to make sure I support I guess it technically is those guys, but there's one guy in general that's been doing it forever. So I wanted to support them, and I should be getting a lot of weird and interesting stuff. Maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast. Maybe I probably should do a underground weird experimental podcast so that people can just skip it, because that's what Death Bomb Arc is. If you're into something knee slapping or catchy, Death Bomb Arc isn't the place to go. But I did buy that, and the same on the noise front, and like what I was just talking about, people doing good stuff on Bandcamp. I found something from Black Green Rituals Records, 50th Dispatch. It's a comp. It was only available on cassette. When it comes to like experimental noise stuff, I really do prefer the comps, so I can. It's basically so I can discern between tracks, I guess. So if you bought just a band that is, or a group or a DJ that's doing something weird or noisy or something that's, not in the realm of discernible rhythm or melody, then you do like to hear or at least I do. I like to hear a differentiation in tracks. So I found Black Ring Rituals Records album that has 15 different tracks from pretty much everyone's different on here. So I've listened to it. It's weird. It's obnoxious. My wife makes me turn it off. But so it's a way I can support independent and the wackier side of music. Not necessarily something I would recommend. You already know if you like that stuff. You don't need to tell me. You don't need me to tell you that you suck if you don't. So, and without going into them, because I didn't listen to him yet, I also like from a reading point of view, while I'm reading, I like to listen to weird ambient tracks, especially that involve field recordings. So if you don't know what field recordings are, it's basically when someone goes out and records. It could be nature, it could be the sounds of the ocean, it could be the city streets or something. And then a good DJ or a good electronic composer will work those into to some other music. I like it best when they use field recordings in a more ambient level of music. There could be changes and heaviness and loudness and stuff, but just long form ambient sounds. And I don't always know what I like or dislike. I should say that a lot of my my introduction to a lot of ambient stuff comes from following Warren Ellis and reading his newsletter. Warren Ellis is most popular for being a comic book writer, but has also written screenplays, and he is the writer of the Castlevania cartoon on Netflix. If you haven't watched that, you definitely got to go watch that. So, when he's writing and working, he listens to a lot of weird dark ambient stuff. And so I was introduced to a lot by that, and liking a few of the things that he recommended sort of spun me off onto my own into my own realm of ambient and electronic music that isn't exactly club music. That's what you think of when you think of electronic music nowadays. But there's a lot of experimental and very interesting, very strange sounding, and at the same time relaxing composers out there who are doing this kind of thing. So, I have a few. I got them on cassette, found them on Bandcamp, but I can't right now necessarily recommend them. Some of this might even be more noise music, because Nursing Death and Support Unit sounds like noise. Sometimes you forget what you buy. You listen to it and you forget what you buy. Oh, this will be great. The Path of the Master by Mono Wolf. Support Unit and Nursing Death split, and then Littoral Hymns by Lack, and Lack's a guy named Phil Mayer. This is something I really enjoy listening to on Bandcamp, so I picked it up on cassette. And I'll probably pop it in because you always still forget what you buy sometimes. So I actually forgot about this and just pulled it up here to talk about on the podcast. So just some random stuff. I haven't been, when I buy things, I like to buy sort of a stranger, more random things, like I said. So what I listen to is a little bit different, and a little bit later in the podcast, we'll get into what I've been listening to and at least initial reactions for some of the songs that I put on the album primer that released on Wednesday. So going forward, every Wednesday, I'll just turn into that. Every Wednesday, I will be putting out the new album primer, which hopefully will get people ready and interested in some of the new albums coming out. I will add a YouTube video of one of the songs that they've released. Almost everybody nowadays is releasing 2 or 3 songs before the album comes out, and those are always on YouTube. So this week there was about 5 or 6. The first one is probably the most disappointing. It's Nipsey Hussle finally released an album. It is called Victory Lap. Now, Nipsey is a guy I like because he's an LA rapper. He has a good look and feel whenever he's been on his mixtapes, and whenever he's on a feature, he just has one of the 3 things that I look for in hip-hop, in a hip-hop song, which is a distinct and interesting voice. So that's where he gets his 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 for me. He has a distinct and interesting voice to me. The other 2 are going to be the rapping skill, and then the beats, and then the overall score, if you had to turn these things into a score, would be how those 3 things meld together. So, the songs that Nipsey released were real good. One of them has YG in it. Last time that I checked, has a real catchy hook. So it sort of made my brought my hopes up. Not that every song needs to. It'd be better if every song didn't have a catchy hook like that, or didn't. In hip hop you're gonna have a hook, but it wasn't exactly like that. That he had some more slow boom bap type beats, maybe some crazier, more interesting beats. Just that you can go. I expect him to go all over the place, but last time I checked was really good. Then when Dedication came out, that was also solid. Upon the amount of listens I've listened to that song now, Kendrick really steals it, but that's fine. You put Kendrick on there so people listen to your album, but you sort of know Kendrick is the best or among the best right now. So I gave this on the website a 9 out of 10 anticipation score because I've been waiting for Nipsey Hussle for a long time. And a 7 out of 10 expectation score because, hey, I'm not expecting him to be necessarily top 10 hip hop albums of the year or something like that. But I did expect a lot. The album, I ended up skipping through a lot of songs. I think that there's going to be 2 or 3 songs that I'll remember and I'll, put on when I'm, looking for hip hop or something like that, or putting on a mix or a playlist. But for the most part, Nipsey Hussle disappointed me a little bit. There's not a lot of interest. He's not saying very interesting things, and his flow is pretty standard and repetitive, and it sort of hurts me to say that because I'd rather not talk bad in general. But there was a measure of disappointment for me, at least, and I'll leave it at that. And I'm gonna move on from that because I'm gonna give the album a few more chances or certain songs from it. But I did have to skip through it a lot. I mean, he gets a 10 out of 10 for the sound of his voice. I wish that he would do something a little more complex, flow-wise, and the beats weren't anything that I'm going to really remember. They probably fit, which is a reason that they should go towards the A+ level, you know what I mean? But they're not like, oh man, that's this incredible beat from this DJ I love, So that's Nipsey. The anticipation, expectation scores were high, and I don't know if they met them quite yet. Maybe later. Who knows? The next album that was on the new album Primer, and I've had a chance to listen to, was The Mean Jeans, the Jingles collection. So The Mean Jeans are really a silly punk band. They're on Fat Records, so it should be easy to find, or whenever if you go to punk rock shows or whatever, you should see the Mean Jeans quite often. I think I've seen them twice. I've seen them at least once when they opened for NoFX, and it's not my favorite thing. That sound, and the Ramones are really not my favorite punk rock band. Even if we're talking old punk, I probably lean more Sex Pistols, which maybe should take away my America card. I don't know, but the Mean Jeans had a real funny idea because they're sort of a silly, fun punk band. So this entire album is just jingles, and not like classic jingles that were written by someone else. They wrote their own sort of tongue-in-cheek jingles for a lot of these brands like Selsun Blue and Miller High Life and Wendy's Bacon Cheeseburger and stuff. So I listened to it. It was cute. I'll never listen to it again. If I see them live, it'll be fun if they play a few of them because they're all about a minute long. But I'll never listen to it again. There's too much other good stuff coming out. I should rephrase that. There might be good stuff in general coming out. There's not a ton of good punk coming out. So, I'm just going to have to reach to the back for other stuff. There's a lot of bands on the Punk Rock Bowling, in the Punk Rock Bowling Festival I haven't really listened to, like Noise is one of them. So I still have stuff to listen to, and Mean Jeans is just not going to be one of them. It's like a cute idea, basically. It's really something, in my opinion, that should be put in as a bonus. You buy the album, we'll give you this bonus jingles album, because it's a cool idea and it's funny, but it's a one-time funny thing. The other band I put on here called American Nightmare. The album is called American Nightmare. The band's name used to be Give Up the Ghost. The album went really quick. I hardly remember it. I might have been doing something else. It was sort of a post-punk kind of feel. It was good. The songs were short. I'm going to throw it on again sometime this week and see if it really catches me. But, I mean, it went right past me, and they look like extremely short songs. But I didn't not like it. You know, it might just be something I need to listen to again or whatever. So it was not a great week for hip hop of the three. So I put 3 hip hop albums on the primer list, the new album primer list. So one was that Nipsey Hussle. The second one is the Reggie Snow album called Dear Annie. In the little blurb I put under, I can't remember why I liked Reggie Snow or how he got on my radar. I still can't remember. I'm sure he featured somewhere or he came up in some search. And I was excited about this, but there's too many, not so much rapping and a lot of narrating going on here. So I moved on from it pretty quick. And Reggie Snow stays on my radar, but maybe not as excited to listen to it. And you can always argue for all of these that I listen to that I'm like, that I need to give it more listens. But there's a little mumbliness to the Reggie Snow album. The thing that sort of keeps it on my mind is that it sounds like an American hip hop album, but Reggie Snow's Irish. He doesn't sound Irish at fucking all. Like, he doesn't have that thick accent. Doesn't sound like Conor McGregor or anything like that. And the video work was actually cool. It looks like a Team Sesh video. If you know Bones, who, Bones is hit or miss too, but his videos all have that 8-track VCR tape looking kind of like bad tracking VCR kind of looking style. So I would say it met my expectations. Expectation score was 6 out of 10. It met them. But we'll see if it comes back around. He'll probably have plenty of opportunities to get back in front of me. The next album is Census Fail. I can admit that I was never a huge Census Fail fan, not because I didn't like them or they irked me, because during the early and mid 2000s, this was the kind of music that was getting overly obnoxious, the sort of emo core screamo stuff. I can see how this would be a fun album to listen to live. Census Fail in general is like that. The mix of catchiness with the screaminess has that Second Under Oath album feel. A lot of bands are like that. Most of them have died off. Census Fail was popular enough that they could continue going. I liked the album. This kind of music won't necessarily ever get this huge expectation. I don't super have these huge expectations, and I'm not anticipating or waiting for them. But as a new release, it was catchy, it was fun. You can see fun in as much as a deep dark emo album could be. So it has this upbeat catchiness, but it's an emo album, right? Or it's an album that's trying to manipulate your emotions and stuff. So it gets a thumbs up for me. It's just not my go-to kind of music, but I still like it. If they were to come through town, so long as I was open to go see it, I would go, also depending on who's opening for them and who they're opening for. So good additive band. If you like Census Fail, or if you like that kind of screamo hardcore kind of sound, then this is going to be right up your alley. I don't think it's going to change anything. It doesn't advance the genre or anything. It's just these Census Fail doing what they do best, and it sounded pretty good. So the third album is Tokyo's WWW, and that one can't really be reviewed because they pushed back the release to the 23rd. So I may just copy and paste this into next week's primer, which is very possible. So Tokyo's the shit. I've always liked him. He has a sort of bouncy, upbeat flow in his rapping. He he appears to be, he's in Chance the Rapper's crew. He looks like he's half Asian. His name's Tokyo. I don't know if he's Japanese or not. Should look into that, especially if I'm starting to like him. And he probably went just above Cammy in my Save Money Crew fan list, because Cammy Dachukwu, he sort of changed his sound to the kind of singy rap I'm not into. But Tokyo, especially this song Symphony, really started growing on me. Has another song, Drift, so very excited about that. He is, of course, in, like I just said, in the Save Money Crew, which is mostly known for Chance the Rapper, but Vince Staples is part of it, Tokyo, Kami, Joey Perp. So that's one of the better crews out there, even if Chance the Rapper sort of went on to a little bit of a style I'm not super into in Coloring Book, but his first two mixtapes are the shit. They're probably two of the best. I said the shit, not shit. Probably two of the best rap albums of the last 5 or 10 years, in my opinion. And a lot of his crew is following suit. And then, embarrassingly enough, the only metal I put on the album primer, even though I've listened to some of the new albums that have come out, is the split by Winhand and Satan Satyrs. I can't pronounce this shit. So Winhand gives you exactly what you expect from Winhand. So if you don't know Winhand, they play long form, slow, doomy metal songs. And that's what they do. And it's a female singer, and she wails and whines through them, and they build up and have long instrumental sections. And I think they're pretty fucking cool. I can see how you'd want to be super high or relaxing while you listen to it. They definitely fall into the, weird wizard artwork that you see in head shops and stuff. So to some people, they're going to be boring, and I get that. Sometimes I'll get bored too, but I like Winhand. And when I'm in the mood for Winhand, they fill that cup for me, that need, that want. So the band I hadn't heard of that's on their split is Satan Satyrs, which very much impressed me. Next week I will be reviewing Destroyer 666, which is I guess black thrash it shouldn't be a new thing. I mean, to me, Venom's black thrash, and that's the original black metal band. But whenever a band has like a darker style or darker lyrics, but they're still playing thrash metal, there's bands like that, like Destroyer 666. Satan Satyrs is much like that. I was very into this out. I was very into their 3 songs. I hadn't listened to them before. Their name, pops up, but you can only listen to so many bands. Like I have to keep saying. But being on this split put them on my radar, and I really enjoyed what they did there. I'm sure that it's also a kind of metal that I have to be into or feeling, feel like listening to. Very upbeat and very metal in the end. So those were the album primers. You can read my album primers. I'm going to start releasing them on Wednesdays. Get them ready over the weekend. See what I need to add. Should be a pretty easy post to put up. Hopefully I continue it, because obviously some of this stuff I'm not being very consistent on. Another thing that's coming out tomorrow, I'm going to try to have a Monday column, and I'm just going to call it that so I can talk about whatever I want. So the Monday column is about fences. We're going to jump from death metal, hip hop, and noise music only bought on cassettes to theater. So first I'm going to introduce the Monday columns. So sometimes if you see on the website, you'll see like Oscar Watch, and it'll be about a movie, and I'm trying to just talk about the movie. It doesn't get as personal. I don't write, as Chris writing. I'm trying to write as a writer with some take on a movie or some new way or specific way to look at a movie. So I think I'm going to switch to some extent to a weekly Monday column, which is going to be very personal sounding. I might make references to my wife or the specific way I experienced some piece of art or something political even. So the Monday column, the first Monday column, at least the first article that's going to be called Monday Column, is going to be about fences. And that is a play by August Wilson, one of his 10 plays in something called the Pittsburgh Cycle that focuses on African American life in every decade in America. And I think all but one are in Pittsburgh. Fences is his most famous. It also has become even more famous because it's Denzel Washington turned it into a movie, and it was nominated for Best Picture last year, and it won. I believe Viola Davis won Best Supporting Actress for it at least. And I was blown away by it. I really enjoyed it, especially that it felt too long. But when I say it felt too long, that's a positive, because it got everything it needed to do in it. Every time you felt a little tired or like it was stretching something out, it hit you with something, And so tomorrow, the Monday column will have spoilers for Fences. I won't spoil anything here, but it is basically talking about how I've now seen the Denzel Washington version. I saw a stage version done here by our UNLV Conservatory Theater, and enjoyed it a ton. In fact, watching it, and I mentioned this in the column, watching it sort of took away from Denzel Washington and Viola Davis's roles, because our just local actors knocked it out of the park. So it makes me think that it's a big part August Wilson, and I can't wait to see some of his other stuff. And if it's a while before I'm able to see them live on theater, I saw that full renditions of other theater groups are on YouTube, and so I'll just watch the play on YouTube. I don't care. It's really good. It's exactly what I need. I'm happy that it's such a long form. It's 2.5 hours. It's not that long, but today I addressed this in the column too. Today, if that got onto an editor's desk, it would be cut significantly if it was even accepted. So that'll be in the Monday column tomorrow, which you can read. And a lot of you might be listening to this afterwards. So go check out the Monday column about Fences. There are some spoilers in there, but I think that there's not. I think the thing I was going to spoil, I cut out of the article. You can find a couple other posts about some of the Oscar-nominated films, like 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and The Shape of Water. And I'm going to do a whole, or at least a part 1 and 2 about Oscar-nominated films. I was trying to watch all of the Best Picture nominations, but I'll probably do all of them that I watch and call that part 1. Watch the rest of them, do that part 2, and then some of the peripheral movies that are nominated, but I just haven't that are nominated for things other than Best Picture. So, okay, you know what? That's about it. We're going to cut it short here. I had a couple other things, but we can really stretch those out. I'm going to do maybe a few more first listen podcasts that are 20, 25 minutes, and more in-depth reviews, of course. Sometimes I don't really know what's going to be the in-depth review, because I don't want to be the reviewer that gives something a 6 out of 10 or whatever, like I did with whatever the hell anticipation and expectation score means. But if I listen to it a lot, it means that I think something about it. So I will start trying to do those reviews also. That'll be a little bit more in depth. I'm going to start bringing more book reviews out. I have something, I don't know if I'm going to write about it or talk about it, for Star Wars Dark Disciple, which has been out for a few years now, but it's a book that I think is very necessary to read if you were into Star Wars Clone Wars. And a couple more ideas floating out there. If you go down and listen to earlier, go check out what I've posted in earlier pieces of this podcast. You'll find entire podcasts on specific books I read, like basically book reports. So we'll do that too. if you want to keep following what we're doing and see how we evolve and what we talk about and what I'm doing and listening to, please follow us on Twitter. It's NPOYS_music. That's the acronym for not part of your scene _music. You can find me at Chris Sarda. That's ChrisSarda. And you can go on to iTunes or Stitcher or Podcast Addict, whichever app you use, and start rating this show high and let me know what you guys think. You can also be on the show. I don't give a shit, so long as you're cool and civil and you're excited about art, not just wanting to be snooty about it. That's the biggest thing. So thank you guys for listening. My name's Chris Sarda. Please like us, find us, and this is the Propaganda Show.